Uduasha city, where the sun is a mirror and the moon a shadow. 800 years ago, the gates of death were broken by the Emperor Immortal. The 5 key-bearers, however, had already unlocked them and walked right through. It is in Uduasha city they dwell. Now, the ghost field breathes next to our reality, lit by the eternal flame of the well of Udu. It is a second skin, a place where thought and will struggle against gravity and light. In other places, the dead congregate in the ghost field, but in Uduasha, the well city, the hell city, they fall straight into the flames. See its glittering districts: Kshitijpur, where the rich plot to buy the horizon; Bunda West, where the refugees of 2 different nations flock; and Pasarhandu, the vertical maze of market and murder. And here is Udepat, where the ceaseless temple resides. Its inhabitants, a family, a snake, and a god. The temple has stood since before the gods of this world were forgotten. Watch as it turns the wheels of revolution. Welcome to Desperate Attune, an actual play podcast about people who take risks so they can survive against the odds.
Well, hi. Welcome back to Desperate Attune and our current campaign of Blades in the Dark, called A Candle Ablaze, set in the city of Uduasha. I'm Tree, or Soumithri. I'm your GM, and I will be running this game for you today.
My name is Emma. I am playing Joan, a retired ghost fighter, and I use she/her pronouns.
Hi, I'm Klow. In real life, my name is Zoheb, and I'm a he/him, and I'm playing Miras Chakraborty, the crew's leech, who is an engineer turned cult leader.
I'm Prince, he/him. I play Vickers, a roof baller and Miras's wife.
I'm Soap. I play Abbas, the religious scholar, and pain in Miraz's side. And my pronouns are he and him.
Oh, I actually forgot my pronouns, which are all of them. I really don't care.
So let's briefly set the scene. Welcome back to Desperate Attune. Last session, we ended having rolled a 1 on our engagement roll. I want to note that you should have got another die on that roll because the hive is at war and that should have mattered, but I'm now going to declare that it doesn't matter.
Plus, we have that ability that gives us
Yes.
an extra die for when we are fulfilling our god's desires.
Yes.
But yeah, no takebacks.
Yeah, no takebacks, exchanges or refunds. So I think what we will do is I will kind of like make a note that like I should remember this in the future so that like at least I remember to ask. But right now, you've rolled the 1, right? Nothing you can do about that. So let's kind of like establish like what exactly we intended to do, which is that because the hive is at war, Deep Ihar, who is the boss of Morrisim, is being given a lot more responsibility, and she's in charge of a lot more of the logistics and the finance. And she has arranged something to be given to Begum Bushundara as a bribe. And it is the intention of the crew to kind of intercept and kind of change that or fuck them over in that process or whatever, so that A, the bribe doesn't go through, and then B, the hive blames one of its own people for that failure, and then maybe infighting will kind of like make sure that the hive grow weaker, right? And so what we kind of learned from Morrisim is that Goopy and Bagha were going to be in charge of this transfer. We found out that one of Vickers' contacts was also somewhat involved in the hive, as like the hive had asked if they could kind of like take over his turf, and he had said no, but the fact was that still left some bad blood, and it's very clear that the hive intends to pursue this. It's just that right now they're busy. And that man's name?
Imran Pasha.
Yes, Imran Pasha. Correct. So Imran was going to provide support, maybe attack the hive while you distracted them on this front, and kind of come to a mutually beneficial arrangement, right? But definitely one of the aims of this was that the Caesar's Temple would not really be involved in anything explicitly criminal. Imran was going to kind of take that for you. So I think the scene that we open on is a place that probably we haven't seen before, because it is in the Imperial Quarter, and it is Sir Archibald Ashcroft III's office, recently of Ilesia. And he is at his desk. It's large mahogany inlaid with Leviathan bone, which makes this desk more valuable than many houses in Uduasha. And he's sitting across from his younger daughter, who is Elizabeth Ashcroft. Please don't call her Lizzie. And we see them have a conversation of some kind. I think that you can see Elizabeth is like strained, but trying not to shout at her father, because that absolutely will not be acceptable. But they finally come to some agreement. He signs a document. I think he signs 2 documents, in fact, one for himself and one for Elizabeth. He passes the form to Elizabeth, and it's clear that the meeting is over. Elizabeth stands up, puts the letter in her jacket, walks out. Then we cut to where our score begins, which is Goopy and Bagha are waiting for Elizabeth to arrive. And the thing, whatever the hive has arranged for Boshundara to take possession of, or whatever it is, in fact, it is Elizabeth who is in possession of it at this moment. And I imagine that they are meeting somewhere that 2 thugs wouldn't look out of place, but nonetheless, someone like Elizabeth Ashcroft would be somewhat willing to like lower her standards to. So I think it is somewhere in the Imperial Quarter, where it's made to look like a tea house, and it's got like a garden outside. And these two men are sitting in this garden, kind of like eyeing their tea, like, do I really have to drink this? And they're waiting for Elizabeth to arrive so that she can be escorted by them to meet the Begum wherever the Begum is currently residing. Where is the crew?
I was about to say, I think it would be funny if Vickers takes point by just taking Elizabeth's place and like going up to them and saying hi, but maybe someone has a smarter plan than that.
What could be smarter than that, honestly?
I definitely don't have a smarter plan. In fact, we suggested we just go up to Guppy and Baga and say hi anyway, because they're cool people.
Yes, indeed.
And they like us.
So the rest of the crew can be back up, like maybe you're with Vickers or maybe you're hiding in the environment. We'll see. We'll introduce you down the line. But yeah, I think Vickers' plan is just to come up and talk to them. And I think Vickers will want to make a very particular kind of impression here. So she will be dressed up like Elizabeth, like very formally, very Akorosi imperial clothes, not dressed like an Iruvian. She has like a long, somber black dress. But point is, I will be in some way signaling, right, that I'm wearing some of the regalia of the temple then, just like basically signaling that I have some importance in Iruvia, some sort of badge of office that is like, I actually belong here.
Well, we know
unlike
that
my sister.
And I think this is like particularly fitting. The reason that the Ceaseless Temple was in trouble with the Hive is that Morosim managed to get you some very special silk that was not meant for you, right? And he got in trouble for that. So I think you are wearing that, right? And it is
all right.
The people who know, and the Ceaseless Temple is an old temple, and even if they don't know exactly which temple it is, they can see by your attire that you are someone of high importance in one of the oldest religions of Uduasha.
Yeah, okay, then I know what I'm wearing. I don't think it's a red sash in that case, but it will be a sash, and it will be an embroidered silk sash with the kind of snakeskin text that only Joan can read.
Yes. Yeah,
on it.
Absolutely. Joan, which of the holy verses have you stitched onto Vickers's sash? Or recommended be stitched?
The 5th, which explains how the enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Excellent.
Very good. So as you enter this place, I think that you are well enough known by the expatriate community in Uduasha that when you are seen, you are noticed, right? Nobody's going to come out and say, "Oh, hello, it's you." That would be, I think, fairly rude. But people are noticing, and you want them to notice, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm commanding attention here.
I think Goopy and Baga, in fact, if they see you, they will be relieved because they're feeling incredibly uncomfortable, and you're a friend.
Yeah. So I will step up to them and like, "Oh, hello, gentlemen. Fancy running into you here. Say, may I take a seat? I understand you're to have a conversation with my sister down the line."
I think Goopy says, "Yeah, no, of course. Sit down. Would you, my lady, would you prefer or presume to have hot tea beverage?"
Vickers is at first going to insist that they don't be so formal, but then she realizes that, oh no, wait, these people are Iruvian. Maybe I'm supposed to be very formal, and so she'll answer like, "Oh, I wouldn't imagine imposing on your hospitality in such a." There's an equally long and convoluted polite response.
Yeah, which unfortunately for you, he was saying because he was very nervous. And I think he kind of looks at Baga very confused. He says, "Tea," and then he kind of like very rudely, right, like raises his hand and just waves at a waiter, which you're not meant to do. You're meant to like give them a look and like waggle your eyebrow very subtly. And he just kind of says, "Oh, and not what kind of tea, just tea." But it's brought over. And I think Baga says, "Yeah, we're waiting for your sister. Just meant to be here. I don't know. We've been here for a little bit, but."
Oh yes, she tends to be fashionably late, I'm afraid. She can be a little bit disrespectful in that sense, which I've always disapproved of personally. So, you ought to have tea with her. I don't suppose I'm interposing on a business meeting or something. I hope this is simply casual conversation.
I actually do think this is a role.
Yeah, I think so too.
They're not gonna just like say, "Yeah, no, you're invited," right?
I am inviting myself.
Yeah. And I think actually right now you are not in a desperate position per se. This is not a very desperate situation, right? I think you are in a risky position, and the risk is that they will be under the impression that you two have joined the hive. Yeah. And that is why you're here.
I think the action I will roll is consort, because I'm consorting with connection, trying to like basically fit in more than persuade them of anything specific. Like, I'm just trying to get them to accept my presence and trust me with a little bit of information. So
yeah.
So risky.
So risky standard. Yeah.
Please take a assist dice from me, because I have made friends with Goopy and Paga. I've embarrassed myself a little bit, lost a little bit of faith with them, but they liked me, and I think you can name drop me a little bit.
Yes, sure. So I will name drop. I suppose I will mention your cool invention, actually, and suggest that maybe they can get to try it out sometime. It looked fun.
Yeah, in fact, absolutely. I mean, they are so up for that.
Yeah, I'll just casually mention the spring arm invention, and like maybe you could try it sometime. Cool. I don't think I will modify this further. Risky standard. I will roll with my assist die, and I will roll a 6.
Yeah, I think the reason that this works perfectly for you is that they are still quite flustered, and they don't know what's polite, what's impolite, you know. So I think Goopy
the reason why I blend in, I think, so well is that I actually don't know either, and I'm just adapting to them, so I'm making them feel more comfortable by association.
So I think Goopy will say, well, it's business, but you know, it's like the kind of business that, I mean, we're not very familiar with. It's going to be some talking. We're going to. She was actually at your charity match. Begum Bushundara. She's in charge of that. The committee or the organization, or you know, they all have these long-winded names. But you know, it's just a meeting. I think And then he leans forward and he says, I think Elizabeth has managed like a connection with your dad. And I think Boshundara is going to be very, very happy with the hive. So yeah, I think she'll be here any moment.
You're all meeting here, Bashundara and Elizabeth and all, because there don't seem to be enough chairs.
Oh no. Boshundara said she would meet us somewhere else. I think Elizabeth wants to meet here because, and then he looks around and he says, because she didn't trust us to stay put anywhere else.
Oh dear. Well, I'm very sorry she doesn't trust you. You seem like upstanding gentlemen to me as well, and I can't help but notice, is she even paying for your tab? Vickers says disapprovingly.
I think this is the moment that they will realize that no mention of not paying for their tab, and they will be like, you mean she wouldn't pay for this? Shit! Like, they're looking at, like, you know, they've probably eaten a shit ton of very expensive biscuits each.
Yep. And Vickers says like, oh dear, I don't think either you or I can afford this sort of establishment. This is quite expensive. All right, gentlemen, I have a plan. I will distract the kitchen staff, and then you run out. We'll do it to Dine and Dash. It's a little bit rude, but since we don't have the currency, we don't have it. What are we going to do? All right, and my plan is to just sweep them into doing a Dine and Dash and run out of here, worrying more about not having paid their tab, and then we can deal with them later. Then they won't be in the restaurant where Elizabeth is expecting them.
Yeah, this is you are definitely in a desperate position now.
Yes,
because you will make a scene, capital A, capital S.
Yes. I mean, if all goes well, they will make a scene and I won't.
Absolutely.
But yes. Yeah.
But that's the risk. And I also think like part of the risk here is that like you will make a scene in front of Elizabeth who may arrive momentarily, right? So...
Yeah. But if it goes perfectly, they will dine and dash and like leave before Elizabeth has time to command them to do anything. So that's my goal.
Yeah.
Can I set you up to do this?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think you can give a signal through the window or something for Miraz to cut the lights.
Ah, yeah. Perfect.
With the wrench, he's outside, he's near the steam valves. He'll just smack, and the lights will go off for a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, I will impress upon the two gentlemen. I will lean forward and say like, now, I don't like to use the temple's privileges, but we do have some at our disposal. And then I will say some bullshit magic phrase that Joan has taught me, and then the lights will go out.
Very good.
Yes, hopefully. Let's see if that happens.
Yes, so set me up.
Yeah, I think it's risky standard, and the risk here is very straightforward. It's heat. People will just notice that you are doing this, you know, and it's not even the first time you've been seen doing this. So,
yeah. So for the audience, the setup means that Miraz is going to do a whole separate other thing, and then that will make my action safer if it succeeds.
Standard. Should I push myself? I'll push. Let's have some stress going on. No, there's a 6.
6, very good. So describe to me, like, I'm curious, what has Miraz learned from the last time he did this that he's using to make sure nobody, his father-in-law, is not watching?
Miraz kind of takes a look around, and then he takes the wrench, and this time instead of smacking... Well, last time he smacked it so that steam escapes.
Yes.
Like he was intentionally doing active sabotage. This time he very casually takes the wrench, and then kind of like loosens the spigot in such a way that it'll kind of like... I think in certain districts... Remind me where we are?
We are now in the Imperial Quarter.
Oh, in the Imperial Quarter. Oh, yeah. Wow, serious shit. Okay, so yeah, this definitely has that kind of thing. In fact, actually, let me rephrase. It's not Steam then. I think they have Sparkcraft here.
Yes.
Right? So that's even better. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think he's outside the Sparkcraft breaker box. And for the most part, they aren't particularly like guarded or anything because like most Iruvians don't know their way around Sparkcraft anyway, so not much scope for sabotage. But like there's certain like fail safes and so on, so that if you for some reason like if the power does go out, it can autocorrect, like it has like redundancy systems. So Miraz is aware that if he crosses this wire and like kind of does some damage here and there, then in 5 minutes the lights will come back by themselves and no one will even come out to look at what happened.
Excellent. Yeah. So I think, and we should say you rolled 3 dice. That was a 2, a 6, and a 4. And the roll that Vickers made earlier was a 6 and a 2. So like these are both like very good rolls.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but now I have to actually make my roll, which I'm
Yes.
unfortunately not good at all, because Vickers is not actually very manipulative, and now I feel like I am
No.
being manipulative, and so I'll have to roll
Yes.
sway.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I was gonna say, I think if you wanted this to be consort, you would only have limited effect in that.
Mhm.
And the limited effect is going from 0 to limited because the lights have gone off that they even feel able to run away, right?
No, I think it's a sway. I'm trying to pull them into this, like, oh no, we need to be. I mean, Guppy and Baga, they're kind of street rat people, right? This is not their first dine and dash, so I don't
No,
think
of
it's
course
impossible to talk them into this.
Yeah. It's just not their first. It's just the first one in this kind of locale.
Yeah. So I think it's sway, and I think with the lights going out, I want improved position, so it's no longer desperate.
Okay. Yeah.
So
then
risky standard then?
Yeah. Absolutely.
And is there a devil's bargain?
Devil's bargain. Yeah, I think there is a devil's bargain, which is that there is actually, we have seen one Iruvian on screen who's already kind of interested in your crew, and it is the head of House Enixis and his creepy wax golem. And I think it will not be the same wax golem. It'll be a completely different one. But obviously, whatever the system they use to manage their golems are, all of them have been updated with, oh, these are the people we're interested in, right? So it's possible that like one of them is in the vicinity, and when the lights go off, especially, like immediately that message is going to be passed back, and then something will come of that forward once enough time has passed.
I will take this devil's bargain on one condition. Can Joan notice this wax golem and possibly interfere with it? Because I know she's been investigating them.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so let's say that.
If you're okay with that, Emma.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so let's say, Joan, wherever you are, you see a wax, immaculately made. Oh, it's the Imperial Quarter? Yeah, you see an immaculately made model of a Death Seeker crow. And these crows are very popular and very like distinctive in Imperial cities, in Duskwall and the capital of the Empire. And this is clearly kind of like a fashion statement. Right? Like you happen to have a golem that looks imperial in the Imperial Quarter. Oh, haha, I am so clever. And then you look at this and you think, oh, that seems familiar to me. And it's about to take off. But we'll get to you in a second. So yeah.
Yeah. This gives me 1 die. So let's see how it goes.
Very good.
And I don't think anyone can assist me because I've already been set up and so on. So 4.
That is a 4.
So I succeed, but with some consequence.
But with some consequence. Good. Yeah.
Yeah, so what I want is for Guppy and Baga to just run away.
Yes.
And I hope I accomplish that. But
I think what you will get is, so the lights go off. It's not really a big problem because people know that sometimes this happens and the lights come back on fairly soon. Not a big deal. But in this case, you do hear some clattering and some wrestling, right? As these two kind of like get up and kick for the door. And I think what happens is that they run out of the door. Both of them look at each other, nod because they've done this a billion times, and then run in opposite directions, right? And I think your consequence here is that one of them is running to the hive because that's where they work, and the other one is about to run into Elizabeth. So both of them are basically like going to make trouble for you in a second. So it's like 2 controlled consequences, but you can resist either of them.
Yes. I think running back to the hive is kind of fine. Like that will be a more delayed thing, but I don't want them to run into Elizabeth.
Yeah.
I would prefer not. So I think I want to resist this, and the way I'm resisting it is with insight, probably having planned ahead.
Yeah.
And what I've planned ahead, of course, is for my team, my people, to help him with an escape route. Go like, no, this way, quickly.
Yes, excellent.
And just wave him down an alleyway going in a different direction.
Okay, yeah, that sounds perfect. So roll your insight.
Yeah, I take a bunch of stress.
Yeah, it's a 1 and a 3, so you'll take 3 stress. And I think with this success, you will also make it out, right? Like, so let us say that Goopy, who is the one who is a little bit more talky and a little bit more comfortable, like in this place, and it's not a high bar. He's the one who's going to stay with you, and Baga is kind of like, okay, I'm out, and he's off. But Joan, I think this is what you notice. You see, as you know, and you've been planning for, Goopy run out, and he's kind of looking in your direction, trying to figure out his options, and he comes dashing towards you. And then you look up, and you see the crow taking all of this in, and you know for a fact it's taken in, the weird power. And if you let it hang out, it'll see Miraz coming out of the alleyway, and it's seeing you, and then probably in a few moments it'll fly away, and then who knows where it's going.
All right. Normally when a bird prepares to fly away, you can kind of see it ruffle its feathers and like get its wings loose to like make its first flap, right?
Yeah.
And I think in that moment where it begins to do that, Joan reacts basically on instinct, grabbing a nearby like rain pipe and pulling it towards her, and she is going to pull herself up the wall in a very like agile running start to jump for it.
Nice. Incredible. Okay. I think that for anyone else, this is not even possible because you're trying to catch a bird. But like, you have done this.
I think it's possible for her.
Yeah.
Specifically also because she is using her new special ability, which allows her to perform feats of near superhuman strength or speed.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So if you do that, you can absolutely do this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I was going to say you would have a limited effect, but with the ability, you will get to standard.
Mm-hmm.
And I will say that like standard effect here is you will stop it. If you were to get to great effect, I think you would stop it in a way that leaves it largely undamaged and suitable for further investigation if you wanted such a thing. And I think you're in a risky position here because I think you risk the rest of your team can still catch Goopy as he runs towards you, but you risk kind of being separated from them for a moment. And basically, it will only really be Abbas and the Roofball team who are free to convince him to go with them.
Okay. I will push for effects.
So what are you rolling?
It will be a prowl roll.
Makes sense.
As I'm trying to get to it quickly.
Yeah.
Risky position. Effects, great, because pushed for effect.
Lovely.
Is there a devil's bark?
Oh, man.
For an extra die.
Is there a devil's bargain here? I think a second crow is not fun. So let's, I think, say that this crow is of particular interest to your the person whom you're going to be speaking with on behalf of the Chandlers, because you convinced the old man who had been in charge of this project that you could figure it out, and his apprentice was the person. And I think the devil's bargain here is that if you don't capture this perfectly, you will get off to a rocky start with her. And if you do capture this perfectly, it's still going to be bad because the work with this will take over whatever it is you were meant to do with her.
Oh, right. So it's like, God damn it, you ruined another.
Yes.
Another of our creations.
Yeah.
Which
I have a question and possibly another devil's bargain, if I may interject.
Mm-hmm.
Joan's special ability is monstrous, which lets you do a feat of superhuman athletics or look like scary in some capacity. How do you envision that looking scary thing? Because I feel like there could be a devil's bargain in that direction too.
Well, it actually fits with the ruining another construct thing pretty well, because what I think is going to happen is that she moves with snake-like speed, but also unhinges her jaw.
Yes.
So, like, she's not going to catch this thing.
No.
She's going to eat it.
Yeah.
Good. Okay. Yeah.
Very
then
good.
This devil's bargain is actually really good.
Yeah.
Cool.
Not only did we grab another of their constructs, we ate another of their constructs.
Yeah. They're going to be
Perfect.
really annoyed about this. And so even if it's the case that like you manage to do this in a way that you can, remove it or whatever, like it will still do some damage, and they won't be happy. But you are eating it at the end of the day. So yeah, risky, great.
Yeah.
The 3, 3, a 5, and a 3. Yeah. So I think I know what happens here, which is that this is like watching an adder striking at like something that is too fast for the human eye to see, right? Like there is something happening here that you can't see, but the snake just goes for it, and it turns out there was something there and now it's eaten it, right? I don't actually know if birds get eaten by snakes in this way, but I do know other things are. And that's what we see, even though Joan is a person. For a moment, actually, we see the Eternal One in Joan's motion. And as Joan opens her jaw, the crow almost doesn't notice the danger that it's in because it's so focused on fulfilling its directive. And your mouth closes on it, Joan. And I think that you've eaten Ferrero Rocher, right?
What's that?
It's like a golden bowl chocolate.
It's a chocolate with.
Yes.
It's like crunchy on the outside, but like ideally like soft on the inside, and then it's got a hazelnut at the center.
Yes.
This is really what this tastes like. These are the textures, right? It's a hard outer shell surrounding the steam and the somewhat almost hyper pressurized liquid, and then there is like a device at the center that is kind of powering it. And device is not exactly the best way to put it, but in the moment that you're eating it, that's what you're gonna think. And it's, by the way, delicious. And you realize that like you don't know whether it's because you're channeling the snake, you don't know whether it's because you are slightly monstrous, you don't know why, but it's great. And yeah, I think the risk here will be that like you will be so kind of consumed by enjoying what you've just eaten that it's gonna be like a little while before you can return to everyone else. You're just gonna be like, oh my god, this is amazing. And
can we mark this not as a temporary harm just because it would be funny?
Yeah, we can absolutely. I mean, yeah, absolutely. And I think brief aside, I'm drawing entirely on a childhood of like when my parents or my grandparents or someone would come back from abroad and like these chocolates used to be like rationed, right? Like you could have one every other day, but what you really wanted to do is just sit down with a box and just go to town, right? I
will mark my ham, sit down, and with a crow.
Yeah.
I used to I used to savor it by eating each layer like individually.
Yes.
Like I would crack the shell.
I did the same. That's very funny. But yeah, so I think the taste lingers long after you've finished, right? But let's say that like given that I said great effect here was going to be that you could have it somewhat undamaged, let's say instead that you gain some insight into the way that these devices are made, right? And it is not an insight that anyone who doesn't eat one could possibly have.
Amazing.
Right? But like, I think you know now, like, how the various bits of it interact and how that might influence the way that it behaves. And only maybe you know that? Question mark? I don't know if other people have eaten crows, but certainly, now that you've done this, that's like, I don't know what that insight is yet. We'll come to that, but that's what you've got.
Amazing.
Okay, Abbas, you see Joan just fucking like shimmy up roof, and then like I think the roof itself kind of obscures what she's doing. Like she's behind where the lip of the roof would be, right? But you definitely see Goopy kind of like heading your way. And Miraz, I think because this has been planned, you're coming out of the alleyway at the same time potentially. But the only way that Goopy is going to have like the only way you're going to be able to convince him to come with you is if there's more than kind of like one person there, and like he can be like, okay, fine. So I think Abbas, right now you're in a position where.
I mean, I was saying like while Miraz gets over here, I can just stall him. I guess.
Yeah, exactly,
right?
exactly.
It's like Goopy, why in such a hurry? Where are you going?
Abbas Bhaiya. And I feel like we have actually kind of established that like they're on good terms with all of you, right?
Yeah.
This is Abbas Bhaiya. And I think he's thinking to himself, and you can see this on his face. Is it okay to tell a holy man that you failed to pay for a meal and ran away from it? Is that like sacrilege?
I mean, I know though, right? I can lead into that. Yeah. Like, yeah, you have the face of someone who's got into a little bit of trouble, Goopy.
It's not trouble. It's just that like we were meant to be waiting for Elizabeth, and she just didn't turn up. And well, I didn't know that we were supposed to pay for the food. I thought Elizabeth was going to pay for the food. I just don't have the kind of money. It would have been like 2 or 3 coin just for that meal. You know, like I don't have that kind of cash on me.
What kind of cuisine is it?
It is very expensive tea and biscuits.
It's Akarosi cuisine.
Yeah, it's Akarosi. It's like tea,
Akarosi.
Biscuits, little sandwiches.
Then Abbas would consider this direct action.
Yes, like I think Abbas, just a bit of a laugh. It's like, no, just when I was young, I got into so much trouble myself. And I understand, over here in the Imperial Quarter, everything costs an arm and a leg. And hey, it's okay. It's okay, Goopy. You're up to be so skittish around me, right? But stealing from the Akarosi, I think, can get you into trouble over here. You'll probably come with us to the temple.
No, I have to.
They can't get you there.
Yeah, I think he looks around. He swears and he says, Baga's just bolted back, and like I have to meet Elizabeth. If I don't meet Elizabeth, it's gonna be a problem. Like it's a really important job, and I don't want to involve you in all of this, Abbas Bhaiya. Like it's you don't want to be tied up in all of the kind of stuff that we do. Like Vickers and Miraz, they know what Duskwall is like. But I think
Goopy, Goopy, don't worry too much about it. Look, I think right now, when the restaurant calls the police, so like, what are you going to do? I think it's probably best you come with us. And I mean, Vickers knows Elizabeth. When you need to meet with her, Vickers can just let her know where you are.
Yeah, I think this is the role here, to kind of convince him that they should go with you. And I think that currently, actually, you're in a fairly controlled position. You've rolled like fairly well. There's not much of a problem. But you're at limited effect because you will convince him to stay with you in this moment and continue to talk, and not necessarily immediately go, I have to find my boss or I have to find Elizabeth. But convincing him to come back to the temple with you is not something that he's necessarily going to be moved from, because I think both Goopy and Baga, while not necessarily the brightest people in the Hive's employ, are definitely prized for being single-minded and like kind of focused on the job.
Right. So,
what are you rolling?
I was going to say consort, right? Because I'm being like, oh yeah, I'm your friend. Oh, you can trust me. It's fine.
Yeah, that's a consort absolutely works. That was a 5 and a 3. I think that I will first tell you your success, which is that he will think for a moment and say, yeah, well, I guess I should at least wait for Vickers, because he's probably still back in the restaurant, and I shouldn't just leave you alone on the street. Okay, fine. I'll stick around for a bit, but I won't promise that I'm going to come back to the temple or anything. I can take care of myself,
Yeah, but just a suggestion, just trying to help out a friend.
Yeah. And
of course, I don't want to get in your way.
Yeah, and I think your controlled consequence here is that, okay, I'm going to make a clock, and I'm going to call it Hive Reinforcements. This is a 4-step clock. And I think I will tick it once for this consequence, because essentially the more time he can keep you here, the more time the Hive has to hear from Baga and then send people and try and figure out what's going on. So I will make a clock and then I will take it. And I will flag that unless this is something that like you would really not prefer, Elizabeth turning up is going to kind of be an ongoing problem, right? Like it's always going to be the case that she's heading here. And I don't want to take that away. I don't want to take successes away from you, but I'm flagging that unless everything goes literally perfectly, running into her is very likely.
I thought we wanted to run into her. Don't she have the bribe that she wants?
Yeah,
that we want?
Yeah, she does. She does.
Yeah. So I think we want to run into Elizabeth just under our, like, the way I see this role is, it's not that Abbas is looking after Goopy permanently. It's that we have some bolt hole where we hide him for a little bit with like an NPC. So he's just out of the way for a little bit.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I think, in that case, what he's doing now is he's kind of saying, I'll hang out with you. And if you want to come with me and whatever, then I'll figure that out. But I don't like if I just like go with some random NPC, I might get in trouble, right? So there's probably a little bit more work to be done to convince him.
Yeah, but for now, he's not going to get in touch with Elizabeth, which is what we want.
Yeah, exactly. And Elizabeth is being quite fashionably late. So you have a little time here.
Yeah, I think the next step of our plan is honestly to confront Elizabeth. To like, her people aren't here.
Yeah.
Her, right?
Yeah.
So I think what the way I want to play this at least is that Vickers didn't get up in the dine and dash.
Sure.
Like she hasn't actually ordered or eaten anything yet.
Sure.
So she's not in trouble. She sat down at their table and then they ran away, but she is very visibly, like people have seen her, right? She is very visibly not eaten or drank anything. She was just like, oh, hi to some people.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to be sitting at their table when Elizabeth shows up. I think this is the coolest way to play this. I'll just be there and her goons won't.
I think before Elizabeth shows up, Miraz wanders in and then he kind of sits down as well and gives Vickers a smile. And then immediately reaches for the biscuits and stuff from macros that are still on the table and starts eating them.
Great, yeah. The lights come back on, a couple of minutes later. You hear someone mutter under their breath, oh, shoddy Iruvian workmanship, as if it was Iruvians who built this. And then someone kind of pokes him and says...
Miraz nods in agreement.
Right. I think someone pokes him and says... hey, my cousin was in charge of that. Because obviously no one, like everybody who works in the Imperial Quarter is also an expatriate. Right? So like there's a little like conversation going on off to the side. And I think Goopy is, while he is distracted, he will miss Elizabeth walking towards the cafe. He's gonna, for whatever reason, be facing Abbas. Not for whatever reason, for literally the reason that Abbas planned this. Be facing the other way, and we just get this shot of Elizabeth walking into this cafe, and she's immaculately dressed. In fact, the reason she's fashionably late is that we saw her with that letter in that jacket. She then went to her house, which is in a different place from her father's office. She changed, put on a completely new set of clothes, put the letter into the new jacket, observed herself in the mirror to make sure she's immaculate, and then she made her way here, right?
Absolutely. What color is she wearing?
Yeah, no, I was going to say, I think she is wearing... I think House Ashcroft traditionally has been... Let's say...
I know what she's wearing.
Oh, go on.
Last time we saw her, she was wearing a reddish shade of black.
Yes.
Today she's wearing a bluish shade of black.
Nice. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And she's got like just at the hems of her... she's wearing a very stylish jacket modeled after the Leviathan captains. I don't think House Ashcroft... Prince, you can tell me this, but it seems to me that House Ashcroft does not have a Leviathan hunting ship or a concern of that kind.
No, I think so. I have given the family like a little bit of backstory to flesh them out, and it is the case that they used to, but they have been like kind of down on their luck.
Yeah.
So like a couple of generations ago, they had ships and stuff, but now the airship is kind of their hope to like revitalize the family and get back in the business. So at the moment, the airship is like what they have.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think she is wearing a jacket that is inspired by the Leviathan hunter captains, but It's not actually one that would be worn by a Leviathan Hunter captain because it is made of like the most like soft silk, wouldn't stand up to a stiff breeze, but it looks incredible. And as she walks into the cafe, kind of looks around, nods to someone she knows, and she's looking. Where are these people? Wait, is that my sister?
And so blows out our brief candle. I named the disciples of the ceaseless temple thus, with both their false names and true. Soumithri, called Tree as the GM. Zoheb, called Klow as Miraz. Prince as Vickers. Emma as Joan. Aadiyat, called Soap as Abbas. Blades in the Dark and the original inspiration for Uduasha by John Harper and Evil Hat Productions. Iruvian playbooks by Johnstone Metzger. Jalandhar intro music by Kevin MacLeod. Outro music in Keeravani Ragam by U. Srinivas. Follow us at Desperate Attune on Twitter or email us at desperateattune@gmail.com. Support us at ko-fi.com/desperateattune.